I don't belong here." The words escaped her lips before the chime of the restaurant door announced his arrival. Every breath she drew felt heavy with doubt, every heartbeat a reminder of how out of place she was. Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Stories. If you've ever felt invisible in a room full of opulence, or believed your dreams were too modest for your reality, then hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a tale that makes you feel seen. Today's story carries a whisper of something unexpected. A poor teacher, a blind date, and a millionaire CEO who might just change everything. Claire Jennings adjusted the hem of her simple dress in the reflection of the full-length mirror by the restaurant entrance. She tugged lightly at the string of pearls, not diamonds, mind you, but pearls her grandmother had passed down, and she wondered if she had made a mistake. She was a sixth-grade teacher at a small public school in the suburbs. She lived in a modest rental apartment, drove an aging sedan, and rarely treated herself to anything beyond coffee with a friend on weekends. And yet, here she was, on a blind date set up by her best friend, who insisted that Claire deserved someone extraordinary. Claire couldn't shake the suspicion that her friend, and perhaps fate, had misread the definition of extraordinary. She remembered the text message she'd received 2 days earlier. 8 p.m., the Opal Lounge. I'll wear a navy blazer. She didn't know who M was, just that he claimed to be a CEO, a friend of a friend of a friend. She'd swallowed her nerves, reminded herself of the one rule. Just 1 hour, sit there, have a polite conversation, get out, no commitments. She stared at the door of the Opal Lounge, shimmering with glass and brass and softly lit chandeliers, and took a deep breath. When the door swung open, a tall, confident man stepped in. He wore a navy blazer as promised, paired with designer slacks and a crisp white shirt. His hair was dark, finely cut. His features were strong but softened by a warm smile. He looked around, paused, and then his gaze met Claire's. Something in his eyes, curiosity mixed with kindness, made her heart skip a beat. He walked toward her. "Claire?" he asked, though a voice in her mind wondered how he knew her name. "I'm Michael Rowan." He offered his hand, and though she felt the weight of his grip, strong, assured, she took it anyway because she trusted those kind eyes. She felt frighteningly like she had been seen, as if the shadows she'd carried had been illuminated for just one moment. "Michael," she said. "Nice to meet you." They sat across from each other. The restaurant buzzed with gentle conversation and clinking glasses, but in that moment the world seemed to pause. Claire let herself relax a little and asked him about his company, his travels, how he ended up here. Michael talked about launching a tech startup straight out of college, building it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and his belief in giving back. Claire listened, fascinated but also self-conscious. She talked about her students, the joy of seeing a child's face light up when they mastered something, the small victories. She admitted she didn't make a lot of money, just enough to get by. She confessed she often wondered if she should have aimed higher, if she belonged in this world of sea of blazers and high ceilings and expensive drinks. Michael studied her quietly, his expression gentle. "You know," he said after a pause, "I don't think you realize how remarkable you are." Claire flinched inwardly. She looked away quickly. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Your work. Your sincerity. Most people talk about what they want, what they plan, what they hope they'll become. But you've done something real. You wake up every morning and invest in children's lives. That's rare and valuable." Claire's eyes glistened, but she fought the urge to wipe away a stray tear. "You're very kind," she whispered. "But I don't belong here, Michael. I'm a teacher. I haven't built companies or traveled the world. I don't have the kind of life you have." He gave a small smile. "Maybe you're looking at this backwards. It isn't about what you have, it's about who you are. And I happen to think who you are is exactly who someone, with or without millions, would be lucky to know." Something shifted in Claire then. Hope flickered. But old fears whispered this could be too good to be true. She excused herself for a moment, visited the restroom, splashed water on her face, looked into the mirror, and repeated her mantra, "I belong." Because she did. She returned, sat down, and decided to make this hour count. They talked about family, childhood dreams, regrets, and hopes. Michael revealed that his father had died when he was young, and he'd grown up watching his mother stretch every dollar while he resolved not just to succeed, but to help others succeed. Claire opened up about being raised by a single mother who washed dishes and cleaned houses to give her education. She told him how she always promised that if she ever made it, she'd pay that forward. Michael nodded, recognizing the same fire he carried in his own veins. Before they knew it, more than an hour had passed. The waiter brought the check and Michael stood up. "I'd love to walk you home," he said. She hesitated. It was unexpected, but she nodded. Outside, the night air was crisp. Michael took her coat, offered his arm. She linked with him, and for the first time in that night, she felt something shift inside her. The idea that maybe she did belong. As they walked, Michael said, "I know we just met, but I feel like there's something here worth exploring." Claire's breath caught. "I feel it too," she admitted. But then she whispered, "I just hope I don't disappoint you." He stopped walking. He turned her gently to face him. "Claire, you've already done more than most people ever do, and you don't need to prove yourself to me or anyone else. You belong." That moment, under the glow of streetlights with the city's quiet hum around them, felt like a promise. For the first time in a long time, Claire allowed herself to hope. Because what if this wasn't about her fitting into his world, but about their worlds coming together? The next morning, Claire woke early, her heart still fluttering from the night before. She went to her classroom, greeted the kids, and for the first time in weeks saw their faces not just as students, but as part of her story. She realized she didn't have to belong in someone else's world. She simply needed to bring her world with her. And maybe that was enough. As the sun rose, Claire knew one thing for sure. She was going to see Michael again. Because perhaps, just perhaps, she did belong, and more, perhaps she was exactly where she was meant to be. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hopeful Stories so more unexpected love stories reach you. Let's venture into hope together. A week passed, and Claire's mind often wandered to that night with Michael. She replayed his words, his kindness, the way he looked at her, not with pity nor with doubt, but with respect and warmth. She told herself not to get ahead of things. This was a blind date, an interesting evening, but deep down she hoped it could be more. She accepted his message inviting her out again, this time to a small art gallery opening downtown. She arrived early, ever conscious of her simple outfit, her quiet laugh, her teacher's humility. Michael greeted her with the same kindness, same warm smile, and suddenly the art pieces around them seemed less important than the connection between them. They toured the gallery, examining paintings and sculptures, but often paused to talk about life, values, dreams. Michael told Claire about a charity he co-founded to give underprivileged kids access to technology and mentoring. Claire's eyes lit up. She talked about launching a reading club for her students and how she'd love to expand it if she had support. Michael listened and then said, "Would you let me help you with that?" She stopped in her tracks. Help her with her reading club? Why him? She felt a rush of gratitude and fear. I wouldn't know where to start," she managed to say. "You know where to start," he replied simply. "You've been there all along." That evening, they walked out into a crisp autumn breeze. Michael held her hand as they descended the gallery steps. Claire felt the warmth in his touch. A thought fluttered in her mind. "I don't belong here." But then she heard the voice of her newly discovered inner courage. "No, maybe you do. Maybe more than you ever believed." Over the next few weeks, they spent time together. Simple dinners, strolling in the park, conversations under the stars. Michael never flaunted his wealth. In fact, a lot of the time she forgot about it entirely. He asked her about her students, invited her to his company's volunteer day, introduced her to his close friends. But he never made her feel lesser for being just a teacher. Instead, he seemed proud of her, of what she did. That pride changed something inside Claire. She began to carry herself differently, not arrogantly, but with quiet confidence. She believed that her life, her work, her heart mattered. 1. Evening, Michael invited her to the top floor of his company's skyscraper in the city center. The windows overlooked the metropolis, lights like stars beneath their feet. Claire felt a hush around her as they stood together, shoulders brushing. Michael turned to her, voice soft. "Claire, I want you to know something." She held her breath. When I first walked into that lounge, I thought I knew what I was getting. Another date, maybe something nice. But I walked out changed. Because I met someone who sees the world differently. Someone whose worth isn't measured by bank statements or shareholder reports, but by kindness, by impact, by heart. Tears shimmered in Claire's eyes. She had expected him to talk about his company, his future. Instead, he talked about her. And I realized, he continued, that I don't want to just be with someone successful. I want to be with someone who's real. Someone like you, Claire whispered. But I don't belong in this world. His hand gently lifted her chin. You belong, he insisted, in every world we build together. For a moment, everything paused, and in the hush, Claire felt her past burdens sink. The nights she'd cried quietly over unpaid bills, the times she'd felt small comparing herself to others, the whisper of shame when she thought maybe she lacked enough, those vanished into a breeze. Because he was seeing her, whole, and inviting her in. They embraced, not for show, but in a truth that shook her bones. Love wasn't about fitting into someone else's mold. It was about two imperfect souls walking toward each other and realizing their imperfect pieces formed something perfect together. Months later, when Michael's company launched a community literacy initiative, Claire stood on stage beside him. She introduced the program, spoke about the children she taught, and how every book, every question asked, every light that flickered on in a student's eyes mattered. Michael watched her from the side of the stage with pride swelling in his features. And for once, Claire didn't feel like the poor teacher in a room full of millionaires. She felt like a partner, an equal, a co-visionary. Afterward, at the gala dinner, she overheard someone ask Michael, "How did you find such an extraordinary woman?" He responded quietly but firmly, "I didn't find her. She found herself." Claire realized then that the real transformation hadn't come from changing her world to match his. It had come from accepting that she already belonged, that her value, her kindness, her passion had always been enough. Michael's wealth was simply a device to amplify her heart's work, not overshadow it. They moved forward side by side, he with the company empire, she with the classroom board, but together creating bridges. And though their worlds were different, they chose to build a space where differences didn't divide them, they enriched them. She with her chalk dust hands and morning school bell, he with his suits and business deals. They met in the space of shared purpose. One chilly evening, Michael prepared a surprise. He brought Claire to a school auditorium, her school, where he had arranged for new books, computers, and a renovation for her classroom. The children cheered. The walls of that old room glowed with new posters and fresh paint. Claire stood among them, tears rolling silently. She hugged Michael. "I don't belong here," she whispered into his lapel. He held her tight and said, "You belong everywhere you touch lives." As the applause of children filled the air, Claire understood one final truth. Belonging wasn't about where you were born, what your bank account held, or the letters behind your name. It was about where your heart chose to live, what you chose to build, and the courage you chose to carry. She looked at Michael, looked at her students, looked at her own reflection in that room, and realized she did belong, right here, right now. And if you ever doubt your worth, remember, someone sees you. Someone is ready to walk beside you. Because none of us belong alone. Thank you for joining us on Hopeful Stories. If this story touched you, please like the video and subscribe so we can bring you more journeys of hope, love, and transformation. Until next time, keep believing you.